John didn't think he could be a doctor anymore after an accident in the operating room. But after a crying wolf placed a lifeless creature at his feet, he witnessed a true miracle that changed the course of his life. Dr. John Thomas had always believed that he was meant to save lives. As a young medical student, he had been filled with an unwavering passion for his chosen profession, eager to make a difference in the world. Still, after years of practicing medicine, he started losing faith in himself. He began to feel disillusioned with the healthcare system and its limitations, questioning whether he was genuinely making a difference. John started to feel burnt out, exhausted by the long hours and emotional toll of his work. In addition, the death of 2 patients under his care significantly affected John's mental and emotional well-being. He had spent countless hours trying to save them, but their conditions had deteriorated rapidly, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The feeling of helplessness and defeat had lingered with him long after their passing, and he found himself questioning his skills and abilities as a doctor. He had always believed that he had a calling to heal and save lives, but now he wasn't sure. His friend had suggested taking a sabbatical to recharge and reflect, and there was no perfect place other than his family cabin in the woods. That place held beautiful memories from his childhood, and he was sure a visit would somehow revitalize him. As John settled into his family's cabin, he couldn't help but be transported back to his childhood. The familiar creak of the cabin's wooden floors and the smell of freshly chopped firewood brought comfort and security that he hadn't felt in a long time. As he took walks in the surrounding woods, he marveled at the same trees he had climbed as a child and remembered the simple joy of exploring nature. John felt his spirits lift as he immersed himself in his childhood memories. However, as John walked deeper into the woods, he couldn't shake off the feeling that he was being watched. It was as if someone or something was following his every move, making him uneasy. He tried to brush it off, thinking it was just his imagination, but the feeling persisted. Despite this, he continued on his walk, trying to enjoy the tranquility of nature and the memories it brought back. As the days passed, John enjoyed the peace and quiet of the cabin and the surrounding woods. However, a crying wolf appeared one night, disturbing his peace and changing his life in ways he could never have imagined. John was drinking coffee on his porch when he noticed some rustling among the bushes in the distance. He was too numb to feel scared and just stayed where he was, waiting for whatever was hiding behind the bushes to reveal itself. When he saw the wolf, he felt his blood freeze in his veins. He made to stand and run inside the cabin, but then he heard a low whimper that stopped him in his tracks. It didn't sound like a wolf's typical call, but reminded him of the sound an animal would produce when deeply hurt. The low whimper he heard was like a cry for help, and it pulled at his heartstrings. Suddenly, his apathy was replaced with a fierce determination to help this creature, no matter the risk. Slowly and cautiously, he approached the wolf, ready to do whatever it took to help it. Being a doctor, John initially thought the wolf was injured and in need of medical attention. However, upon closer inspection, he realized it was simply crying as if trying to communicate something to him. John was astonished by the wolf's intelligence, surpassing anything he had seen. He had heard tales of animals performing incredible feats, some even seeking assistance. However, he never imagined encountering such a creature, let alone experiencing a meeting like this. As he leaned closer, the wolf nuzzled a small, lifeless creature towards him. He initially thought that the tiny creature was a wolf cub, but Dr. Thomas was shocked to see that it was something completely different. It was a fox, and unfortunately, it appeared to be beyond saving. Despite feeling uncertain and out of practice, something inside him stirred. He was still a doctor, and any patient needing help was worth a try. Regardless of its species and physical state, he jumped up and ran inside to get his bat. He came back with his tools and instinctively began to work. His hands moved with practical ease. He thought he had long forgotten. At that moment, he saw a glimmer of hope and felt a renewed sense of purpose. The last time he had touched his tools, he had felt like a failure. But now, he was starting to think he could once again make a positive difference in someone else's life. The doctor worked tirelessly on the lifeless fox. His hands moved with a steady determination as he tried everything in his power to restore its heartbeat. The wolf watched intently as the doctor worked, seemingly offering it silent support. Just when John was about to give up, he noticed a slight twitch in the fox's paw. Encouraged, he continued to operate on its small body, and before long, the fox let out a weak but audible cough. John was overjoyed as he realized he had saved the fox's life. As he looked up, the wolf was gone, and the open forest greeted him. The following evening, John found himself on his porch, contemplating the previous night's events while the little fox rested and recuperated, next to the cozy warmth of the fireplace inside. Suddenly, a familiar, mournful howl shattered the stillness of the night. It was the wolf. John was startled by the wolf's return, but felt a strange connection to the creature. Once again, the animals seemed to beckon him to follow, and John couldn't resist the pull. He trailed behind the wolf as they ventured deep into the woods, feeling a strange sense of trust in its guidance. Eventually, they arrived at an old, dilapidated den that had long been abandoned. The wolf led John towards the entrance, and as he peered inside, he saw a group of tiny, helpless fox pups huddled together. Their eyes were barely open. John's heart sank as he realized their mother must have been the fox he had saved the night before. He knew he couldn't leave these vulnerable creatures to fend for themselves, so he quickly sprang into action. He gathered the pups, tackled them safely into his jacket, and returned to the cabin. Over the next few weeks, John cared for the fox pups, nursing them back to health and watching them grow stronger with each passing day. As he watched them play and explore their surroundings, he felt a renewed sense of purpose and fulfillment. Saving one animal's life led him to save the lives of many. Eventually, the fox and her pups grew strong enough to return to the wild, and John released them back into the woods. He watched with a sense of pride and wonder as they scampered off, knowing that he had played a small role in their survival. But even though he thought he had saved them, that was only half the truth. And while he was returning to his cabin, a true miracle happened and changed the course of his life. As he walked, he felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. It was the urge to go back to the operating room. Despite being inexperienced in veterinary science, saving those animals reminded him how good it felt to help people in need. He had lived through trauma, but now he was ready to put his gifts to good use once again. That night, he packed his bags, and the following morning, he loaded everything into his car. As John prepared to depart, he caught sight of the wolf lingering at the edge of the woods. Its gaze was fixated on his own. He smiled at it tentatively and saw it move its tail from side to side, almost like it was wagging. While he drove off towards the city, a triumphant howl from the wolf reached his ears. No longer sad, but instead confident and robust. It was as if the wolf was thanking him, but really, it was the other way around. John had been given a second chance, and even though he felt silly admitting it, he owed it all to a wild wolf.